Kakadosh Boker Tov. We're just going to continue with the beautiful letter of the Steipler. We know that the Steipler has written many, many letters, and many people don't even realize the importance of the letters that he was writing, and they are shocked that how could the Steipler even write. One of them is a famous letter on intimacy, but this is to do with the letter of a Steipler to somebody that was pogem in the Brit. So listen to the Steipler. He comes and he brings down in his Kinyana de Garta, he comes and he says like this, and you get it Yud Bet. Chas v'shalom. It's chas v'shalom to say that the mitzvot that a Rasha does is not considered mitzvot. The truth is that even if somebody is mamash inside of the averot, right, which is we're talking about here, Hazeh Yadua, which is Zera Levatala, and he still didn't do Teshuvah, nevertheless he's still obligated in the entire Torah Kula. And because that he's learning and is being mekayem mitzvot, he will receive a reward in the Olam Haba, just like any other of the tzaddikim. However, though, the reward will come after he finishes his tikkun and geinam v'chayotze bazeh, right, as we already mentioned. Now he says that which is brought down in the Sefer Yirem, that the Torah mitzvot that he does, they go chas v'shalom to the sitra achara because he's doing Zera Levatala. He says this is an inyan acher that we don't that somebody that does not understand Kabbalah cannot understand this either, and that it was every single mitzvah and maaseh tov, it causes an abundance from the shamayim, and that hashpa'ah, that influence in the shamayim is actually good. It's going to help him in ruchaniyut and in gashmiut. You remember we kept on mentioning that if a person is watching over his brit, which is Yosef HaTzadik, they get good parnasah. That's why he was a mashbid lecholam haaretz. He was also the tzaddik mitzad tzidkut of watching over himself, and also that he had a lot of parnasah. U'she'adam shakua bechet hayadua. However, though if a person he's sinking into this known sin, so then that hashpa'ah, that influence, the abundance which is coming through Torah mitzvot, is going to be taken by the sitra achara. He says this be'emet is galut shekhinah kiviyachol. It's like the shekhinah is in galut. Kadosh Baruch Hu yashpia tova lesoneav, that it's giving it to the aval. Etzim mitzvot, but he says, but at the end of the day, mitzvot naasim tovim, nothing is going to be different for that. Only the hashpa'ah, the influence which is coming from the Torah mitzvot, is going to be taken away. However, though he says, Kol ze enu ela lefi sha'ah, it's only for the moment. Ki achar kach keshadam mitaken et hachet hazeh, but when a person comes and he fixes this avera, azay motziu misitra achara kol ma shegazlu mechelek hakdusha she'yesher lo. All of a sudden, a person went, and whether it's they were younger or they went and they did nonsense, and all of a sudden they come and they do teshuvah on this sin, he comes and he says all of a sudden everything which was taken away from the kedusha to the tum'ah to the sitra achara is now taken back. That's what the Steipler comes and he says. The Sfarim HaKadoshim, because of Kavanah, that they wanted a person to stop doing the sin, they came and they said how it is that they take away all the person's zichuyot, but they didn't go the other way around. Which means it's very easy to speak about the negative. A person that does that, geinam. A person that does, he gets burns. It's very, very easy to speak about the negative. But what about the positive? So he comes and he says, "Vekitzru levaer et tzad hashani." They minimize to come and write about the second side. Tehainu, which means even though it could be that a person came and they sinned, because again they were motzi zera levatala, or they did certain things of nonsense. He says, "Mikom makom." Nevertheless, im leumatzef, the other side around, harbe pe'amim menatzeach u'mitgaber al hatava. They have come and they've overcome the Yetzer Hara. So then, in that time that they actually overcome their lust in an incredible way, he's mamshich or hakdusha al atzmo ve'al ha'olamot be'ofen kadosh me'od me'od. Look what a kedusha he brings down to this world, right, and on the entire world. Ve'chelek gadol me'od mitzvot ha'kedusha, and a very great portion of all the kedusha which is coming, hareu motziam, and he's bringing them back. And we can't understand the greatness of the kedusha that this person is, that he's controlling his Yetzer Hara, and that is bivchinat Yosef HaTzadik. So what is the general rule? A person that has a war with the Yetzer Hara, sometimes he wins and sometimes he falls, right? He says, just like the chet, just like the sin is very, very powerful and it's terrible, on the other hand, if he comes and he wins a lot of times, his merits are Norav Hayom Amod. They're also very powerful. And he's going to be Zocheh to fix during his lifetime that which he already defected. And he's going to bring back all those Nitzotot HaKedusha. The Ikara Tikkun for the sin was like what we spoke about yesterday. Torah. A lot of people come and they think it's Ta'aniot and this and Gigul Shelek and all these things. He comes and he says, is learning Torah. And you're doing and therefore he's going to come back to doing the Torah and Avodah. The Mekor Ne'eman from Rabbi Mazuz. So we're going from one extreme to another. We're going from, right, this is the Steipler, the father of Chaim Kanievsky, Lar Shalom. Now we're going to Rabbi Mazuz of Kisei Rachamim. They came and they asked him, what should a person do during the Shovavim? We know Shovavim is Shabbat, right? The Shabbatot of Shemot, Vayra, Bo, Beshalach, Yitro, Mishpatim. Some people add in Trumat Tetzaveh as well, so Shovavim Tat, or some people just without. But those are the weeks that we try to fix this Averah. And that's why during that time they learn whether it's Hilchot Nidah, they learn Hilchot Yichud, Hilchot Hashmid, they learn all many different types of halachot that have to do with this. So he came and he said, what should we strengthen? They asked him, what should we strengthen ourselves? In Torah, Tefillah, Ta'aniyot, or Tzedakah? What should we do? Listen to what he says. He answers, Teshuvah, Tefillah, Tzedakah. He says you should do Teshuvah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah. What is a siman? Ata takum terachem Sion. Takum terachem Sion, which is Teshuvah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah. He says, Beta'aniyot en le'arbot. Don't do a lot of Ta'aniyot. He says, why? But since the Ta'anit makes a person very, very weak, right? And the Rambam in Hilchot Teshuvah doesn't bring Ta'anit once. You know what that means? For a person to know all of Hilchot Teshuvah, he comes and he says, he have to know all the Rambam in Hilchot Teshuvah, doesn't bring the word Ta'anit, not even once. So he says, that which they said, Mesechem Moed Katan, Kafei Amud Aleph, that Rav Huna was fasting 40 days because one of his tefillin, right, the strap of the tefillin turned around. The Shuta Geonim, it's already says that it's already done enough just to do one ta'anit. And the Rambam in the tefillin also did not bring down this ta'anit. So the main thing that a person has to do is tefillah. He says Torah tefillah, and he comes and he says tzedakah. So therefore it's very, very important that we already mentioned before. Remember that the main way to fix this sin is by learning more Torah. You put yourself more into the head of the Torah. And by doing that, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll be zocheh to Teshuvah Shlema Be'ezrat Hashem.